Treasury is empty. It is time, it is past time, that this House majority proved worthy of the trust the American people gave it more than a year and a half ago. I yield back.
Yields back. Gentleman from New Jersey.
Madam Chairman, I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to oppose this amendment, which would eliminate the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy at the Department of Energy. This year, the committee continued fulfilling its responsibility to reduce government spending by eliminating effective and wasteful programs. Our bill cuts EERE by $428 million. That's a 24% cut below fiscal year 2012, nearly 40% below 2010, and well below the 2000 level. Our bill slashes programs that are ineffective and cuts activities that properly intervene in private markets. The committee will continue its work to reduce spending and keep the government out of private enterprise, where private enterprise can make those substantial investments themselves. And I yield back the balance of my time.
What purpose is the gentleman from Indiana rise?
Move to strike last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Appreciate the recommendation and also rise in opposition to the gentleman's amendment and would simply state that my objection is based on national security concerns. The fact is, as a senior senator from Indiana, Senator Lugar has characterized our energy crisis for years, and I absolutely agree with him. The fact is the importation of petroleum products and our use of carbon because of where we buy them has created a significant national security issue for the United States of America. One of the accounts in the renewable accounts that will be eliminated under the gentleman's amendment is vehicle technology. There is no question American citizens are suffering today because of high gas prices. I myself, and I only speak for myself, can't do anything about that particular price at the pump today. But if through the vehicle technology program and the wise investment of the federal taxpayers' dollars, we can get every American another mile per gallon, we have removed some of their economic discomfort and burden. We have also helped to begin to ensure our national security by reducing our dependency on foreign oil. Therefore, I do strongly oppose the gentleman's amendment and would yield back my time.
The gentleman yields back his time. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from California. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to. Gentleman from California.
I'd ask for a recorded vote.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from California will be postponed. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York rise?
Madam Chair, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. Tonko of New York, page 20, line 15. After the dollar amount, insert increase by $180,440,000. Page 30, line 5. After the dollar amount, insert reduced by $180,440,000.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to thank my colleagues, Representative Bishop, Representative Hirono, and Representative Welch, for offering this amendment with me. Madam Chair, the Tonko Bishop Hirono Welch amendment is simple and straightforward. It increases funding for two important state energy efficiency programs in the energy efficiency and renewable energy accounts at the Department of Energy. The amendment would increase spending for the Weatherization Assistance Program. Weatherization is the largest residential efficiency program in our nation. Weatherization reduces energy costs for low-income families and the elderly and the disabled. It creates jobs, invests in local businesses, and advances technology, state-of-the-art technology. Weatherizing homes under this program saves $437 in annual utility bills for the average home owner. These energy savings insulate families from rising energy costs by permanently lowering household energy demand for both heating and cooling. Our amendment also restores funding to the State Energy Program, or SEP. SEP is the only cost-shared program administered by the United States Department of Energy that provides resources directly to the states to support their efforts in energy efficiency. This includes 56 state and territory energy offices. And according to a study by the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, for every $1 in federal SEP funds, we have 1.03 million source BTUs, along with the cost savings of $7.22 and a leveraging of $10.71 on that same very $1. Madam Chair, these programs traditionally have received strong bipartisan support. Saving money by saving energy is good for everyone. The bill's deep cut in weatherization programs from recent years' allocations is so-called justified in the report by the claim that there are large amounts of unspent funds from previous appropriations, including those from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, ARRA. Well, the majority of these funds have, in fact, been allocated, and I understand they will be completely spent by April 1st of next year, the beginning of the weatherization program year for states. So that means there will be little to nothing available by the time that FY 13 funds get to these states. The ARRA money and the money from fiscal year 2011 has been obligated in contracts to subgrantees. In addition to the cut in weatherization in this bill, the other source of federal funds for this program, 10% of LIHEAP funds, is also reduced due to the reductions in funding for that program. We're going in the wrong direction. If someone can make the case that we have fully exploited all of our opportunities in weatherization, or can demonstrate that we have done all that we can to make citizens' homes and businesses energy efficient, then winding down the program would perhaps be reasonable. But we are a long way from achieving that goal. Energy we do not have to use is, in fact, the cheapest energy available to us. We need to be doing much more in efficiency, not less. Efficiency should be our fuel of choice. This bill is skewed to reinforce our existing energy use patterns. It continues outsized investments in the established energy industries that have received generous federal support for nearly a century, while renewable energy technologies are shortchanged. We should be lending federal assistance where it is most needed, to individual citizens and to developing industries that are struggling to bring new energy technologies forward, such as solar, wind, and geothermal. The petroleum industry has the means to support its own research. Madam Chair, we are likely to be reliant on fossil fuels for quite some time, and we should use these fuels wisely. And all of the above strategy must include energy efficiency, and we should support states' efforts to encourage the adoption of new energy technologies and increase energy efficiency. Let's continue our history of bipartisan support for programs that save money, create jobs, and improve our energy security. Weatherization and SEP are such programs worthy of our support. I urge adoption of this amendment. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Madam Chair, I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I rise to strongly oppose the gentleman's amendment. His amendment would put at risk our nuclear security activities, the things we're doing to modernize our nuclear stockpile, the type of investments we're making there that help protect our country. And we would be adding money to programs that, quite honestly, don't need the money, and he referenced some of those programs. The weatherization program has hundreds of millions of dollars in unspent money. Some of it's been obligated, some of it has not been obligated, but sitting in that program and in the state programs he referred to is a lot of federal money from the stimulus and other prior appropriations that remains to be unspent. So it's not a question of not having enough money. They just haven't spent it down. Our bill provides enough funding, new funding, that when combined with the unspent funds, our bill will fully fund each state at the fiscal year 2010 level. That's enough money for the states. More funding is unnecessary. This amendment has unnecessary funding, adds unnecessary funding, and it cuts our security, our national security, things we need to do for our nuclear stockpile, and I strongly oppose it, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. For what purpose the gentleman from New York rise?
Madam Speaker, I ask to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the Tonko, Bishop, Hirono, Welch amendment, and I commend my good friend and fellow New Yorker on his steadfast commitment and long-standing leadership on this issue. The increase to weatherization funding provided in this amendment brings the Weatherization Assistance Program funding close to its pre-Recovery Act levels, which helped states retrofit close to 100,000 homes a year. In addition, nearly 92% of the Recovery Act funds appropriated to the weatherization program have been spent, meaning that the recommended funding level in this bill will result in a majority of states receiving reduced federal funding for weatherization. Arguments to the contrary with respect to available funds are simply not accurate. New York has spent the entirety of its Recovery Act funds on time and under budget, weatherizing nearly 70,000 units, 20% over its initial goal. On Long Island, the Community Development Corporation of Long Island weatherized 3,000 units thanks to the Recovery Act and has continued to spend down the regularly appropriated funds it receives to retrofit qualified homes. Weatherization assistance continues to be a successful program, and we must build on its success. Even after the Recovery Act and regular appropriations, the CDC of Long Island has a wait list of 8,000 qualified homes that could be retrofitted for energy efficiency. The demand is there, and this is just Long Island. Adequately funding the Weatherization Assistance Program to meet this demand will have several positive effects on communities and the economy. It will reduce energy costs for homeowners, which is absolutely critical as these costs continue to climb. Perhaps most important, it will put local contractors back to work retrofitting homes to be more energy efficient. This means job creation in local communities. Most recognize that this is a time when Washington must balance spending reduction with wise investment. If we all agree that this Congress must do more to foster an environment of job creation, then I urge all of my colleagues to support this amendment. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from
Madam Chair, I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, I rise to support the Tonko Bishop Hirono Welch amendment. This amendment would increase the funding for the State Energy Program and the Weatherization Assistance Program. The bill before us slices the State Energy Program in half, from $50 million to $25 million. I'm not sure what the justification for this is. This program is effective, and we should continue to support it. In fact, each dollar invested through the State Energy Program translates into $7.23 of savings on energy costs. It also helps to leverage state and local funds for bigger impacts. Hawaii has utilized this funding for a variety of beneficial activities. It has been used to support expanded clean vehicles infrastructure, more energy-efficient buildings, and other purposes. This amendment also invests in the Weatherization Assistance Program. This program helps the elderly, disabled, and low-income families benefit from energy efficiency upgrades. Most folks think of helping weatherize homes against cold weather, and certainly that's one of the key benefits of this program. In warm Hawaii, which has the highest energy costs in the country, we also use this program. We help our families weatherize by installing money-saving things like energy-efficient water heaters or insulating existing water heaters. Since 2009, at least 800 homes in Hawaii have been able to improve energy efficiency through this program. A modest beginning, but more, of course, needs to be done. This has helped to create jobs and give families the benefit of increased energy efficiency. I recognize the hard decisions that are made in this bill, but these programs that we just talked about may seem small, but represent big savings for families all across our country, and in fact, it will save our country money over the long term. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment. I yield back the remainder of my time.
Gentleman yields back the remainder of her time. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New York. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to. Gentleman from New York.
Madam Chair, I ask for a recorded vote.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New York will be postponed. What purpose does the gentleman from Utah rise?
Madam Chair, I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. Chaffetz of Utah, page 20, line 15, after the dollar amount insert reduced by $74 million. Page 56, line 24, after the dollar amount insert increased by $74 million.
Gentleman from Utah is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a simple amendment that takes a line item within the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Program back to the fiscal year 2011 level. Now, I think that's probably a pretty reasonable approach to it. It's not too long ago. If left to my own device, I'd probably zero it out. But if you go back and look within energy efficiency and renewable energy and then go back down and look at advanced manufacturing, which is the line item that I'm talking about, what this amendment suggests is that we would reduce spending on this by what is proposed by $74 million, taking it back to the fiscal year 2011 level, which would be $76 million. Now, that was not just some random number. There was real justification for this, and I hope colleagues on both sides of the aisle will find this reasonable. I'm going back and I'm looking at the committee report for Energy and Water Appropriations. And there are 3 things that I want to highlight within that committee report. And I want to read from that. First of all, first one I want to highlight is, quote, for example, the Advanced Manufacturing Program within Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy currently funds more than 40 centers in a variety of sizes, ages, and effectiveness levels, only a portion of which are mentioned in the budget request. These centers vary on how well they support the program's new manufacturing mission. Now, I don't think it's appropriate to literally double from 2011 levels the spending that we're going to have on these programs when we can't basically answer the questions about the effectiveness levels. In fact, I would go further into the committee's report where it says, quote, addressing this problem requires a higher degree of transparency, evaluation, and prioritization to ensure that only high effective centers closely aligned to program missions are funded. I would agree with that. And until we can, as a body, answer that question, it's hardly a time to double the funding for this particular program. The report further goes and says the Department is directed to submit to the committee no later than February 10, 2013, a comprehensive list of all centers funded through fiscal year 2013, including the date of establishment, funding level in fiscal year 2013, total funding received to date, purpose, milestones, and expectation of termination date. Those are all reasonable things to look at in making this determination. But until we can answer that question, I don't think it's appropriate to double the spending. And the third point I'd like to make from the committee report on this particular line item, it says, quote, the committee is concerned that historically technology innovations developed through the EERE, research and development programs, ultimately lead to manufacturing of new or cheaper products overseas. So if the conclusion of the committee is that the money we spend ultimately leads to development of products overseas, maybe it's not time to double the spending there. So this amendment, Madam Chair, simply reduces the spending on this back to 2011 levels. It's a reasonable thing. We can live within that. Again, if it was up to me, I'd zero it out. But I'm trying to be reasonable here. Let's save the $76 million, answer these questions, reevaluate the program. And that's why I urge the adoption of this amendment. With that, I'll yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For purposes, the gentleman from New Jersey rise.
Madam Chair, I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, I rise to oppose the gentleman from Utah's amendment. Our bill works hard to cut federal spending. We're on his side. We want to reduce spending. Our committee is going through the budget for the Department of Energy. We've taken a look at it. We've prioritized. In fact, we've already said, as I've in other debates on other amendments, we've cut this EERE, Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, $428 million. That's a 40% below fiscal year 2000 level. With the remaining funds, we prioritize to invest in our nation's most pressing needs, one of which is doing more research to help American manufacturers compete and survive. Let me restate. We do not increase this account. We reprioritize to address our nation's most pressing needs. In this case, the challenge is to keep our American manufacturers competitive and to keep jobs here. Our bill does that. Therefore, I must oppose the gentleman's amendment, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman, for purpose of the gentleman.
Move to strike last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I would join the chair in opposition to the amendment, and I would point out one of the fallacies of his argument that he used on the floor is the language of the committee's report, and that is our very serious concern that in the past we have applied monies to research that has essentially been siphoned off overseas. In general debate, in my opening remarks yesterday on this floor, I commended the members of the subcommittee and particularly Chairman Frelinghuysen for making sure we don't do that in this bill this year, and that there is throughout this bill and that report language directives to the Department of Energy to be focused on using this money wisely so that we maintain and begin to grow our industrial base and our manufacturing base and to keep these jobs here. This would be a mistake, and I'm opposed to the gentleman's amendment, and I would yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Utah. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to.
Madam Chair, I'd ask for a record vote, please.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Utah will be postponed. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise?
Madam Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment offered by Ms. Hahn of California. Page 20, line 5, after the dollar amount, insert increase by $50 million. Page 22, line 23, after the dollar amount, insert reduced by $100 million.
Gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's time that we begin to allow Americans to ease off their dependence of oil and give them a real alternative. You know, every day we see the damage done by our dependence on oil. We see high gas prices threatening our economic recovery and burdening families already struggling to make ends meet. We see higher respiratory disease rates, and we see any number of distant regimes holding our foreign policy hostage, weakening our ability to stand by our principles and our friends. I think it's time for us to throw off these burdens and step into the future, not double down on the dependencies of the past. And yet somehow this bill allocates almost 5 times more funding to deepening and extending our relationship with fossil energy than it does on advancing energy efficiency and clean, renewable energy technologies. One of the most promising and necessary things we can do is to give Americans an alternative to oil, is to speed our transition to electric vehicles. Passenger cars alone use more than 40% of the oil consumed in this country. And by 2020, the National Resources Defense Council estimates Americans will spend $260 billion a year on gas. Just think of what we stand to gain from helping Americans switch to electric vehicles. The technology is here, and all we need to do is implement it. My amendment would help us begin to make the kind of investments on the scale of the opportunity before us requires, giving $50 million to the Department of Energy's Energy Efficient and Renewable Energy section. I drive an electric vehicle back in Los Angeles, and I haven't been to a gas station since last September. Unfortunately, I don't get to drive as far as I want to because we haven't yet built the electric vehicle charging infrastructure that would help electric vehicle owners continue to drive as far as they want. The range anxiety of not being able to find a charging station when the battery goes low means that many EV drivers don't drive as far as they can, and many prospective electric vehicle owners are scared off. That's why we need to get serious about addressing the barriers to the adoption of electric vehicles. Later this year, Nissan will be making the Leaf, their electric vehicle, right here in America in Tennessee. And just last month, the Department of Energy announced they were offering $5 million to spur electric vehicle adoption, seeking proposals that address barriers to the adoption of these vehicles and drive market development and transformation to make alternative fuel vehicles and fueling infrastructure widely available. We need to be bolder. We ought to have 100 times that much here. But I know my friends on the other side are a little timid about electric vehicles, so I'm only proposing 10 times as much. I've even reduced the budgetary authority of this bill by $50 million because I know how much my Republican friends like to cut spending. But with the right investments and electric vehicle infrastructure, we can clean our skies, free our foreign policy, strengthen our hand with regimes like Iran, and put money lost at the pump back into the pockets of American consumers. Madam Chair, I hope my colleagues on the other side will meet me halfway on this. Meet Americans halfway. I hope you'll support this amendment. This is about jobs in America. This is about giving our American consumers an alternative to their sole dependence on oil. Thank you very much. I yield back my time.
Back. What purpose the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, I rise to oppose the amendment. The amendment will reduce fossil fuel energy by $50 million. And let's start by noting that fossil fuels produce most of our nation's energy, nearly 70% of our electricity and nearly all of our transportation fuels. But I do appreciate the gentlewoman's passion for electric vehicles. In fact, our bill already funds research in that area at above the fiscal year 2012 level as part of our focus on programs that address future gas prices. Therefore, I do oppose her amendment. I understand her views and her passion, but I strongly oppose it and yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Indiana.
Strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairwoman, rise in reluctant opposition to the gentlewoman's amendment for the very reasons that I mentioned earlier in debate when the gentleman from Illinois had an amendment to cut EERE, the renewable accounts, to add $15 million to science. In this case, again, I don't think it is wise for us to make a choice of cutting fossil energy research by $100 million to increase the energy efficiency account by one-half that amount to $50 million. The fact is, I understand that some people have a significant concern about the use of fossil fuels. I certainly do myself. But the fact remains that 83% of all energy consumption in the United States today is generated by fossil fuel, and we need to apply ourselves to the wise and efficient use of that fuel as well. So again, would reluctantly be opposed to the gentlewoman's amendment and would yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from California. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to.
I'd like to ask for a recorded vote, please.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from California will be postponed. For what purpose the gentleman from Georgia rise?
Madam Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Court report that. Would the gentleman please specify which amendment he's referring to?
Say that again, Madam Chairman.
Could you specify which of your amendments you're...
It's an amendment that... It's 119.
Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. Brown of Georgia, page 20, line 15.
That's right.
After the dollar amount, insert reduced by $335 million. Page 56, line 24. After the dollar amount, insert increased by $335 million.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My amendment would reduce funding for the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy account by $355 million with the intention of removing all funding for vehicle technologies. This reduction would be transferred to the spending reduction account. Madam Chairman, I'm 100% supportive of the automobile industry producing more fuel-efficient automobiles if they choose to do so. However, there is simply no good reason that the federal government should be subsidizing billion-dollar companies at a time when our nation is broke. Over the past few years, we have seen the automobile industry receive an unprecedented amount of government assistance. We've seen an industry bailout, the market distorting cash for clunkers, and many more subsidies, all done with little regard for taxpayer money. It's time we begin to reverse this disturbing trend and let the automobile industry succeed or fail on its own merits. I urge support of my amendment, and I yield back.
Yields back. For what purpose, the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Madam Chair, I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, briefly, I rise to oppose the amendment. I share my colleagues' concerns that we should not be funding activities that the private sector should do on its own. That's why our bill cuts 24% out of this account, only preserving appropriate federal activities that are too risky for the private sector to take on alone. But the amendment goes too far, undercuts our ability to address gas prices, and therefore I must oppose it, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose, the gentleman
Move to strike the last word and simply would add, by agreement with the chairman's opposition to the amendment, have already remarked earlier in the day relative to my support for vehicle technology, and am opposed to the gentleman's amendment and would yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. The question is on the amendment by the gentleman from Georgia. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The amendment is not agreed to. The clerk will
Page 21, line 6. Electricity delivery and energy reliability of $123 million. Nuclear energy,
$791,000.
I move that the committee now do rise.
The chair will consider the motion. We're consulting on the schedule. If you hold just a minute, please.
Madam Chair, I would withdraw the motion if that's appropriate.
Gentleman's motion is withdrawn. Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, proceedings will now resume on those amendments on which further proceedings were postponed in the following order. An amendment by Mr. Scalise of Louisiana, an amendment by Mr. King of Iowa, an amendment by Mr. Moran of Virginia, an amendment by Mr. Holcomb of Illinois, an amendment by Mr. Chaffetz of Utah, amendment number 6 by Mr. McClintock of California, an amendment by Ms. Capter of Ohio, an amendment by Mr. Tonko of New York, an amendment by Ms. Hahn of California. The clerk will reduce to 2 minutes the time for any electronic vote after the first series of. The unfinished business is a request for recorded vote on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the noes prevailed by a voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. Scalise of Louisiana.
The recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
The House today wrapping up work on a bill for 2013, the spending bill providing funds for the Energy Department and for federal water projects. Looks like a vote here, a series of votes, up to 9 amendment votes. This first one is 15 minutes. This bill increases funding for the nation's nuclear weapons stockpile, fossil fuel programs, nuclear energy research and development. Again, 15-minute vote. These are all amendment votes, and the following amendments will be amendment votes will be 2-minute votes. Lots of talk today about the unemployment number for the month of May. 69,000 jobs created in the month of May, the fewest in a year, according to the Labor Department, and the jobless number rising from 8.1% to 8.2%. Those figures released this morning, and not long after those job numbers came out, We heard from Republican leaders, including Speaker Boehner. We'll show you that briefing from this morning as this vote continues.
Good morning, everyone. Well, it's pretty clear that the American people are still asking the question, where are the jobs? Another month of disappointing job gains. It's pretty clear that the American people are hurting. Small businesses continue to avert hiring any additional people. And it's clear that the policies that we've seen are not working. And I would just hope that the President, my colleagues in the Senate, will look at our plan to create American jobs. We passed over 30 bills that are sitting in the United States Senate. We can help the American people at a time of this great need if the Senate would just look at the bills that are before us. Listen, you've watched us for the last year and a half come up here every day and every week and make clear that our focus is the focus of the American people. We promised that we would listen to the American people, and their focus is on this economy and jobs. That's why that's continued to be our focus each and every day over the last year and a half, and it will remain that because the American people are in a desperate spot. Millions of Americans have lost their jobs, are looking for work, and it's time for us to change course and to have real policies that will put Americans back to work.
Good morning. You know, these job numbers are pathetic. And, you know, the American people really deserve better. And I think under the right leadership, we can do better. And we in the House remain committed to doing all we can to removing the uncertainty that's plaguing not only the working families of this country, but the small business people of this country. That's why you will see us continue to focus on the fact that we're not going to, if we can, allow taxes to go up on anybody. And we'll put a bill on the floor this summer to make sure that that signal is sent to the working families and the small businesses of this country. We also believe strongly that the uncertainty provided by the President's health care bill is weighing down job creation, is weighing down the innovation and investment in this country, and that's why we are going to seek to repeal in total the Obamacare bill. We also will look to bring a bill to the floor this summer that will say stop the regulations coming out of Washington because they're proving to be an obstacle to job creation. Stop everything that is providing disincentives to our job creators so we can get this economy going again.
I guess the only news this morning is that 3.5 years later, the President's policies are still failing. 3.5 years later, millions of Americans still remain unemployed. 3.5 years later, millions of Americans are underemployed. Again, the President's policies continue to fail. This should not be a surprise. If you threaten the single largest tax increase in America's history, much of which will fall upon small business people and entrepreneurs, you're not going to get robust economic growth. If you have an avalanche of new regulations, as have ensued under this administration, you're not going to have robust economic growth and job growth. If you go about vilifying success and free enterprise, you're not going to have robust economic growth. If you engage in serial trillion-dollar deficits, which business people know sooner or later they're going to have to pay for, you're not going to get robust economic growth. And so, unfortunately for our constituents who've seen their gas prices almost double under this administration, who know that their real disposable income is down under this administration, who look around and still see their friends, their neighbors unemployed under this administration, Again, the news today is 3.5 years later. The President's policies are still failing the American people.
As I look at these numbers, you can't help but think about the millions of Americans that are continuing to look for work and are not able to find jobs, and these are really tough numbers. I also think about the fact that when President Obama was elected, he said that if he hadn't turned the economy around in 3 years, that he probably wouldn't be in office in his 4th year. And after he was inaugurated, the cornerstone of his economic plan for America was a stimulus package. It was an $800 billion stimulus package. It was a record amount of spending, and he told the Congress at that time that if you pass this stimulus package, unemployment will not go above 8%, and by this time, this year, unemployment would actually be below 6%. Well, it's clear that that hasn't happened. But I can't help but think it didn't have to be this way. We could have taken an approach that really focused on unleashing the private sector. And the reason that the House Republicans opposed that stimulus package, opposed the big government approach, was that we believed there was a better way, that there was a way that focused more on the private sector. And President Obama could have taken a lesson from President Reagan back in the early 80s. And Reagan actually inherited a much more difficult economy. Inflation was higher, interest rates were off the charts. And Reagan, at this time in his reelection, he had an economy that was booming. We need a course correction. We need an approach coming out of this administration that is more focused on the private sector, more focused on what it's going to take to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit in this country again.
Yes, today the President is going to Minnesota, and he's, I'm told that White House says he's going to highlight the to-do list that he has for Congress, and specifically the Veterans Jobs Corps. I'm wondering if you plan to move on any of these, and if not, what would you say to the President today about that?
Instead of another campaign speech, the President might want to engage with Democrats and Republicans here on Capitol Hill to handle the big policies that are affecting our economy. Whether it's the tax rates that all expire at the end of the year, whether it's the sequester that's due to go into effect in January that will gut our military, or our $16 trillion national debt, our $1.3 trillion budget deficit. Maybe the President ought to get out of the badminton game and get into the rugby game that's right in front of him.
Mr. Speaker, you have said consistently that this election will be about the economy. In your statement this morning, you said the American people don't have to accept the President's new normal of fewer jobs and higher prices. You're basically saying, vote for us. That's what you're saying, that your policies, if you elect Republicans, you can right this economy.
Elections have consequences. And we believe that the policies that we have advocated over the last 3.5 years would have our economy in a much better place than it is today.
Mr. Speaker, the group of GOP challengers that came to D.C. this week are, in many cases, demographically and ideologically different than candidates who have won in the past. Many of them are preaching compromise over confrontation. Why are you highlighting such a different group of candidates? Do you think this will make it easier to get things done?
Oh, listen, these are the first 12 young gun candidates that are on the list. We didn't choose them for their demographics or their style. They just happen to be good candidates in districts that are winnable for us.
Mr. Speaker, if the President had implemented the policies you advocate, including the bills you have in your support code.
Talking about the plan for job, American job creators?
Yes, sir.
30 bills sitting in the United States Senate?
In the Senate.
Why don't they pick up the bills and pass them and help the American people instead of playing politics over there?
So my question, if you don't mind, if the Senate had passed those bills and done other things that you wanted, such as roll back regulations and do away with the health care program, where do you think the jobless rate would be now? Could you give us any specifics?
I'm not going to go down the path of, I'm not an economist. All I can say is that if they would have taken our advice and worked with us, the economy would be better. More Americans would have better jobs. More Americans would have better incomes. That's clear to us.
Speaker, the President has his to-do list, and you have your list there. Don't they overlap in any place at all that maybe something could get done?
Listen, we've worked together to pass the 3 free trade agreements. We worked together to pass the Veterans Jobless Bill. I can get down a long list. Eric and the majority or minority whip worked together on the Export-Import Bank to get it reauthorized. There are a number of places we have found common ground. But it's a constant search. And it's hard to sit down and find common ground when the President's always out campaigning every day.
Speaker Boehner, now that...
No, let's go to the front. Loudmouth, relax.
The one area where the economy actually lost jobs was in construction, 28,000 losses. Why won't the Congress provide some certainty to the construction industry by passing a highway bill? Wouldn't that at least improve that fleet area?
No question that getting a highway bill finished is very important. The House has passed a bill. The Senate's passed a bill. We're in conference. I know the conferees are working diligently at trying to come to an agreement, and because it would put more Americans back to work. But included in there is our energy provisions, like the Keystone Pipeline, that would create nearly 20,000 jobs immediately, directly into this job, and up to over $100,000 jobs indirectly. This will help put Americans back to work. I hope we get an agreement.
Do you think House Republicans have any culpability for the unemployment numbers? Any responsibility?
They went their own way in 2009, 2010 on virtually every bill. And they've created quite a mess. But listen, our job is to stay focused on what the American people are most concerned about. And that's exactly what we've done.
Speaker Boehner, now that Mitt Romney has clinched the nomination, do you have any scheduled appearances, fundraisers with Mr. Romney?
No.
And can I get your comment on the New York sugary drink ban that Mayor Bloomberg wants?
You know, I like Mayor Bloomberg, but are you kidding me? You know, come on. Don't we have bigger issues to deal with than the size of some soft drink that somebody buys?
Thank you, sir.
I'll pass that along.
Republican leaders from earlier today, again, the Labor Department announcing that the unemployment rising for the first time in 11 months from 8.1% to 8.2% in May. U.S. employers creating 69,000 jobs in May. That's the fewest in a year. Back live on the House floor, the first of 9 amendment votes to the Energy and Water Projects 2013 spending bill. This is Steve Scalise of Louisiana, and one of his amendments. 15-minute vote first. All of the remaining amendments will be 2-minute votes. Again, the underlying bill provides the funds for the Energy Department for federal water projects. Part of the bill includes funding to keep Yucca Mountain open for possible future use as a nuclear waste disposal site. The Hill writes that the Obama administration has tried to close that site down, and the administration has issued a veto threat against the underlying bill, which provides $32.3 billion for the Energy Department and for water projects. Again, first vote here, 8 more to go after this. A series of 9 amendment votes on the House floor. This first one is a 15-minute vote. The underlying bill is the Energy and Water Appropriations Bill for 2013. Yesterday, the House passed the Intelligence Authorization Bill. They also passed the spending measure that would boost suicide prevention and homeless assistance funds for veterans after voting to remove a controversial project labor agreement in the Military Construction Veterans Affairs Bill. That passed yesterday by a vote of 407 to 12. And here they'll finish up work on the amendments, and it's not likely, though, they'll finish work on the entire energy and water bill today. The House today has had committees meeting this morning. As a matter of fact, the Budget Committee meeting this morning. Paul Ryan calling the Budget Committee in to hear from, among others, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, who testified on the Hill this morning on a broad range of issues, including the numbers this morning from the Labor Department, the jobless numbers, ticking up from 8.1% to 8.2% in May, and the economy adding 69,000 jobs, new jobs, in May, and that's the least in a year. The underlying theme of this morning's hearings, which, by the way, if you want to see it, we'll show it later in our schedule, and it's also in the video library. The underlying topic was tax policy and the economy. And I'm going to show you just a short exchange with Paul Ryan and also Governor Jeb Bush in this morning's Budget Committee hearing.
Just got the employment numbers about a half hour ago. Only 69,000 jobs added last month. That's about half of the 150,000 that the markets were expecting. The last 2 months, job growth was revised downward by 49,000 jobs. The unemployment rate is now gone up to 8.2%. The U6 unemployment rate, which lots of us track, which is people who are looking for a job that didn't find one, people who stopped looking for a job, or people who are in part-time job that still want a full-time job, went from 14.5% up to 14.8%. It's not working. The economic policies we have today are not working. And I always try not to say what it is my political adversary is in favor of. I'll let him speak for himself. But what I think what we're trying to establish here is that both parties have messed this up. I think Mr. Edwards did a pretty good job of going through the past about how, with good intentions, Republicans and Democrats have believed that if they can just put some kind of a preference in law for a selected industry, for a selected goal, for a selected company, that good things would result from that. And it's helpful to us to go back and look at the track record of this bipartisan idea that government is smarter and better at picking winners and losers in the marketplace than the market itself is. And what we have learned from this bipartisan approach is that corruption does occur, cronyism does occur, and that what ends up happening is those who are connected, those who have established connections, those who know the ways of Washington end up usually getting the benefits, and those who are out there around America working hard, slaving away, creating ideas, coming up with companies in their garages, they're not on the inside of this. And so we end up erecting barriers to entry that protect established businesses, connected businesses or sectors or businesses, and that necessarily comes at the expense of tomorrow's entrepreneur. That makes it harder for people to rise and create new ideas and businesses, which, as we've learned through the economy, through economic evidence, is the greatest chance of giving people prosperity, of decentralizing wealth in this country, of allowing people to rise and have social mobility. And so what we're trying to do is recognize that both parties messed this up. Let's not sit around and point fingers at each other. Let's recognize both parties messed it up. Let's go back with what works. What works is entrepreneurship, small business growth, risk-taking, and yes, regulations that are fair for all, regulations that do put the guardrails up so that we have transparency, so that we have honest play, so that we have rules of the road that apply equally to everybody, equality before the law. That's what we are trying to reestablish here. No one's suggesting that we have some sort of dog-eat-dog society where just the powerful and the connected survive at the expense of everybody else. No, what we're saying is the same rules apply to everybody so that you, based on your own merit, your own God-given talent, that determines success. And so that our goal in America is to try and advance the starting line so that we can promote equal opportunities so people can make the most of their lives instead of having people pick and choose winners in Washington. Because what ends up happening, whether a Republican's in the White House or a Democrat's in the White House or whoever's running Congress, is interest groups get involved and they decide how this is all done at the end of the day. That doesn't work. We've seen our friends in Europe try this, and now we look at the results of that. And so, Governor Bush and Mr. Edwards, you've seen this work. You have great experience in government. Has this worked at the state level? State governments do this a lot. You know, the stimulus, for example, sent a lot of money to the states. Did that work? Do these 49 different job training programs, which clearly were created with good intentions, had various groups advocating for this or that job training program, does that work to actually giving people the tools they need to go into getting skills so they can get onto a career path that they were in an obsolete industry that, you know, that is gone? You know, where I live, we lost four auto factories since 2008. So all my friends that I grew up in high school with, the guys I know from my childhood, don't have a sector that they can work in that they got their training in. And now, you know, people are trying to go back to school to learn a new skill to get back on their feet again. Does this approach work? Did stimulus spending work? Did the 49 different job training programs work? And then, Mr. Edwards, give me more examples about the Canadian system. I think that's very intriguing. You write about how Canada actually went after a lot of this corporate welfare, this cronyism. Give me a more anecdotes and story on that, because I think there's something we could learn from the Canadians on this front. Governor Bush.
We had a mini stimulus package when I was governor in the early 2000s, and for some states it worked because there was chronic budget deficits and they filled the gap, and they consider that stimulative rather than changing how they do things. In the case of Florida, we actually took that money and used it for on a one-time basis to try to help create, to invest in basic research, in essence, which I think is the proper role of government. This is where maybe my Cato Institute friend and I might disagree. I do think that there is a proper role for government in things to build capacity, to build infrastructure, and that's what we use the money for. It wasn't stimulative in terms of an economic recovery, but we already handled our budget. Because we have a balanced budget requirement, as almost every other state did, we had to make tough choices. We had to challenge how we did things, and we got through the budget challenges quite well. Similarly, I think many states did the exact same thing this last year. Florida did not raise taxes last couple of years. Florida hasn't raised taxes. In fact, Florida has cut taxes. And they've done it, the challenge became an opportunity, which happens in the private sector as well. When you don't have the pressure of a balanced budget requirement, as you all don't have here, then, you know, it doesn't really matter. But every other jurisdiction, local and state governments have that challenge, and they adjust. I would say, to use the clean energy example, a better approach would be to spend less money, but spend it on basic research that creates the disruptive technologies that are market-based that will be sustainable over the long haul, rather than trying to create a wholly owned venture capital subsidiary inside the Department of Energy where there's winners and losers picked. That's not going to create any advancement of new technologies. It basically protects, in the cases of the failed companies, it ended up protecting companies that didn't have the best ideas. And the market then punished them, and the United States government was out of pocket. So a better approach would be for the government to do what it does best, which is to fund basic research, applied research, to be able to create the next generation of industries. But let the market solutions be the means by which we achieve the desired result.
You know, I believe in the 50 states as the laboratories of democracy. I believe in federalism. I believe we ought to get a lot of these programs out of Washington and let the 50 states figure out whether they want to do them. Job training programs, you know, we've had them since John F. Kennedy's administration. They've never worked very well. The GAO has said they've never worked very well. Let's let the states fund it and do it. Then the states can learn from each other to see what works. So, the problem is we have over 1,000 federal aid to state programs now. They're massively bureaucratic. The money pours out of Washington. There's rules and regulations with each of these programs. They put state governments in a straitjacket, which doesn't make any sense, and we see that now with No Child Left Behind. The states have rebelled against that. One political scientist said, the problem now is we've got sort of a marble cake with American federalism between the three layers of government. We should have a layer cake. Each of the levels of government should fund their own programs, do their own programs, and the states could look at each other to see what works. To transition over to Canada, this is one of the things Canada did. 2 decades ago, Canada was in a horrible budget situation like we are today, massive deficits, overspending. Wall Street was downgrading its debt. So they did a series of 5 years of really big spending cuts. They chopped their total federal budget 10% in just 2 years, which would be like us cutting $400 billion out of the budget in just 2 years. So what did they cut? They cut business subsidies. They cut aid to the lower governments. They cut defense. So they cut all kinds of stuff. And it's worked extremely well. The Canadian economy did not go into a recession with these government spending cuts. It boomed. The Canadian economy boomed for 15 years. Even as these spending cuts dramatically dropped the size of their government. So just to put a couple numbers on that, go back a couple decades, the federal governments in Canada and the United States were both around 23, 24% of GDP. The Canadian government now is around, federal government is around 15% of GDP. Ours is up around 23 or 24. So they massively cut the size of their federal government. They decentralized their federation, and it has worked extremely well.
Thank you, Mr. Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do believe that there's a lot of agreement, but let me just start with what sort of got me going here. The chairman in his opening remarks again talked about the Obama administration and crony capitalism. They continue to refer to the auto rescue, not as an example of an important government intervention that helped millions of jobs, but as an example of crony capitalism. So I just want to ask you, Governor Bush, I believe you supported, as did a lot of us, not all of us, on a bipartisan basis, the effort that President Bush took to help rescue the financial sector, which in part precipitated the crisis. And many of us believe that it was also appropriate to take the actions that President Obama did to help rescue the auto industry and 1 million jobs. Did you support that effort? No. No. Okay. So, okay, I understand. I mean, do you agree with Governor Romney's position that we should have let them go bankrupt?
They did go bankrupt. It just went up. It was in a way where the government, it was a government-induced bankrupt that allows now, for example, tax loss carry-forwards that never under normal bankruptcies would exist, allows for General Motors now not to pay taxes based on profits that otherwise they would have to be paying taxes on. That's the form of capitalism when the government intervenes in a very muscular kind of way, and I don't believe that that's appropriate.
77, the amendment is agreed to. The unfinished business is a request for recorded vote on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Iowa, Mr. King, on which further proceedings were postponed, on which the ayes prevailed by voice vote. Clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. King of Iowa.
Vote has been requested. Those in support of a request for a recorded vote will rise and be counted. As sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered.